Good morning, welcome back to the Amputee Angler, and we're currently out on the boat. Time is just approaching 6 AM and we are going to be trying to do some bass fishing today. So we was out all last night, and I say we, it's just me, but I was out collecting some lovely prawns, using some drop nets, and we have managed to get some absolute stonkers. Again, I'm using this little tiny little net, but well, you'll see these. I'll put them in my hand, hang on. We have got some absolutely, they're going everywhere now, stonking prawns, loads, they are massive. Look at this one here, look at that, absolutely brilliant prawns. So we're going to be doing some bait fishing today, and we're going to try and get some on the float and the lure as well. A couple of marks, it's approaching slack water now, so I've just stopped the boat just to get sorted out, and we're going to try a couple of marks on the way, and then we're going to go down to the east and fish a mark that I fished before. This time last year I was getting loads of bass at this mark, and I've yet to be there this year because we're down Brighton now. So yeah, we're going to give it a go, see how we get on. I might put the anchor in later on. If the reef is fishing on my drift, I'll stay on my drift. If it's not, I might just put an anchor in, and I'll put some baits down as well. And I might try and winkle out a ballon wrasse, because I haven't had one this year, but yeah, believe it or not, easiest thing to catch, and I've not caught one yet. So I might get that ticked off as well, but we'll see how the day goes, and then we will go from there. Okay, so the prawns are obviously in this bucket here, and I'm just using like a little aerator there, just to aerate the water, keep it oxygenated. Doesn't cost much, you can get them for you know, 10, 20 quid. But we have got some absolutely stonking prawns in there. I'll try and fish them out. There you go, look at all that line there, look. Absolutely chocker. There's some absolute monsters in there. Again, little pond net, 3 quid off eBay. Just makes it easy when you're trying to scoop baits out, rather than trying to pick an individual prawn out. They're, just makes it a lot easier. The float setup we're going to be using today is real nice and easy. Again, it's just my Huma Helios 20-60 gram float rod and a Penn Battle 2 loaded with J braid, yeah, some fin diameter J braid, and all we've got is a 56 gram float, little bead on the top, and that then goes down to a locked in lead. So it's about, well, that matches the float, so 56 grams, what's that, a couple of ounces, to a little swivel, and then that just goes down to a tiny little size 4 circle hook, and then we're going to fish prawns on that, and then that's how we're going to be going. When you're fishing the float, you need to set it to the shallowest point of the reef. So if you've got a reef that goes from 20 foot to 40 foot, you need to set your float just above the 20 foot mark, because although when you're going over the 40 bit it'll be well off the bottom, as you go over those peaks and troughs that you get on reefs, if you've set that float too deep, you just snag up and you lose all your gear, which you don't want. So yeah, set your float to the shallowest point of the reef, and then eventually that's going to be tantalising that bait just over the top of that bottom, and that's where those bass are lurking. So without further ado, let's give it a go. When you're float fishing with these prawns, there's a lot of different ways I've seen people hook them. You know, it's each their own. If you find something that works, generally you stick with it, and that's what I do. So all I do is I turn the prawn upside down, and then I just hook it once through the second segment. On the prawn you'll see little brown line segments, and all I do is I just hook it once through that second segment, and then pop it out the back, and then it sits on there then perfectly like that. Yeah, I have seen it threaded through, you know, thread the bait through, but I tend to find they die a bit quicker like that. Just that once in that tail then just gets it, I find, a bit of a better longevity to it. So there you go, we're in 24, 25 foot of water now. I'll just give that a little flick away from the boat. Like I said, we are still trying to work out which way we're drifting and stuff here at the minute, so once we work that out, then we get a better line. Once it's out, all I do is I leave the bow arm off, and then what that allows it to do is it allows, as the bait trots off down the tide or the boat moves away, line can just peel off the reel, and the bait will sit naturally up in the water. If you put the bow arm on and you're drifting, then what will happen is the float will go tight and it'll kite at an angle, and what it'll do is the bait will also kite through the water at an angle. It doesn't look natural. Later on we're going to get some pout. With prawns you can sort of get away with it. but later on when we fish pout, you don't want that pout looking weird because the bass just won't take it. So yes, that's trotting away nicely now. We have got a bit of a north-south drift. It's slack water, so the wind, there's a little bit of a northerly, so that's going to get us as we're side on. But the float's bobbing away nicely there now, so what we're going to do is we're going to fish the lure at the same time. So again, 2060 Helios, same J braid, Diver J braid, and then I've got a length of 25 pound fluorocarbon, and that's just tied onto the braid with a Albright knot, which is a knot that I like using. And then we've got a Savage Gear sand eel, 65 gram that is. I'd probably go a little bit lighter here to be honest, but it'll do the job. Alright, we've got readings coming through on the sounder now, but they look like it might be mackerel. I just had a couple of plucks at the lure, not hooked up, so that tells me it might well be mackerel. But yeah, it's quite thick with it. They don't look like bass. Bass when they're feeding, they look like seagulls. You know when you draw seagulls on a page as a kid and you drew them like a little wavy line, that's how they look like on the sounder when they're feeding, and that's where they're chasing their feed. But there's something down there. But if it's tiny little schoolies, they probably won't get this lure in their mouth. It's a fairly sizable lure, this one. I'm doing that so I get away from the schoolies. If I get schoolies, it'll be on the prawns. Lure, I'm hoping to snaffle something a little bit bigger. Yeah, definitely some bait fish down there on the back end of this reef. That may even well be bass. I can't show you because obviously it's in the wheelhouse and I'm fishing. There you go. Yes, fish showing on the bottom. It's got to catch him. Oh, float just went then. Ah, had the lure rod out and I saw it going. It went under. Age old thing now, whether or not the bait's gone. I've just dropped right in now, only in 10 foot of water, 10, 11 foot, and I just saw it go under. I don't think it caught the bottom. Now that bait's gonna have to check that bait now. When you're fishing prawns, you have to check that bait. I can see the swells below me at the reef, so we're in the money. Oh, bait's still there as well. Oh, that's gutting. Never mind, we'll go back out again. Oh, that went zooming under. Trouble with this float fishing, if you're not on it, you miss it straight away. You got to be bang, and I wasn't. Damn it. Never mind, we'll keep it going. Well, the area we're fishing over now, it gets really lumpy and bumpy, and I'll just reset the float because we are going over a load of huge bumps. Well, I say huge, they come up sort of 6, 8, 10 foot. I don't know if you'll be able to make it out on the camera because the sun's behind me, but you can tell when you're coming over them because the water starts swirling and the boat starts going in different directions, and that's where the current comes through. In fact, we've got a big one coming through now. I don't know if you can make that out on there, but yes, a massive lump, and that's what the bass sit behind, and they get behind there and that's what the bass sit behind. They get behind there and they sit in there behind those big rocks, and they wait for the ambush points for the fish to come past, and they grab them. And this looks really fishy, but we've not had nothing yet. Float went under earlier, but I think it was just a little bit over depth. When I brought it in, it had a bit of seaweed on it, so I think we just snagged up. But we're in the money here. You can see now the boat's starting to swing where we're in the tide, so this is where we want to be. Just we haven't had any yet. I'll have a jet ski going right over the mark, which is handy. Come on. Finally, we're fish on. Right, in true Sod's Law style, we have one. I turned the camera on, battery gone flat. So we have got one. I've gone round for a second drift on this reef. It's quite big. And we didn't have a single bite. I had a few takes on the lures, but I had a feeling I wasn't quite deep enough on the prawns, so I adjusted my depth by 8 foot. Bang, first time. Calm down. There we go. Got a lovely little bass. It probably is just sizable. I'll measure him in a minute, but yeah, first one of the day. It took a while, but we've got there. Just had to adjust the depth and boom, straight into it. Yeah, lovely little bass on the float. Boom. Got a little bream rig down. A couple of prawns on it, and I just cut the turns off the bottom. And sometimes you pick up a lot of bass like that, and also balance. It's had a really rattly bite, but nothing can connected up. Feeding mob. Trouble when you fish prawns, if you don't hook that fish, that's it, it's gone. What that was. A little rattly one. Oh, a fish on, guys, got another one. Float just sailed away. It's not a big one. Small one. Have one out. I hooked there perfectly in the top there. Just watching the float, watching it sail away. Not going to be size of this one, slightly under this one. There you go, another one. Small, we'll put this one back. There he is. He goes. So there's our little circlet, size 4. And I'll turn the prawn upside down, and the tail's just there, look. And then on the tail they've got little brown segments, little lines. And all I'm going to do is take the point of the hook and just pass it down through the second segment. Just push it over the barb, and then that's how I fish my prawns, like that. And then obviously you can see it kick in there. His legs are moving, and that goes wild. And then when, yeah, once you, if you bring it in, you see it's dead. The bass are on the feed, they still take a dead prawn. It's not a problem. But if you've got enough of them like I have today, if you bring it in and you see it's dead, just change it. Go again. As if you were fishing worms in a match or the beach, you know. Fresh bait out, that's it. Flick it behind the boat. Already the float's now starting to trot away from me. Bail arms off, and that's it. When it gets 100 foot away, or I can no longer see the float, or I think if I get a fish it's going to be a pain to get in, bring it in like I have just done and reset. Perfect. It really is an exciting way to fish this. We're only going to get another month or so of this, really. Well, month and a half maybe to do this, and then the bass are going to be doing their thing for the winter. So I will try and do a bit more of this before the year's out. But it really is the best way, I think, to catch bass. People say, oh, surface lures off the top, and I agree, that is good fun. But watching a float just bob away and have to, oh, I love it. Oh, got another one. Sat there watching it when you're float fishing, you're like, where's the float gone? And suddenly it dawns on you, it's gone under. Slightly better this one, not very a monster, but looks like it might be sizable. Changing that depth earlier definitely paid dividends. Here comes. Might just go a bit small, but oh, that one goes. He goes. Here's a Cox and Rule circlet. 4. There we go, look at that. Perfectly in that top. I love them. Don't fish anything else now, hardly. Circlets non-stop. Brilliant, brilliant bits of kit. I'll get this unhooked and I'll show you. There we go. Another one. .45 centimetres exactly. Almost a mirror carbon copy of the other one. Yeah, happy days. That's my brace for the day now, so any others are going back regardless of the sizes. But yeah, two 45s, I'll take that. A couple of other small ones that we missed on camera, but it's a bit slow, but it's this mark always produces if you know how to fish it. Always does. Right, all we're doing, we're just literally flicking this away from the boat, depending how the tide's running. Got the stop knot, we're about 40 foot deep on this float, so it's quite deep. and tide's coming in, so I might have to adjust it again in a minute, but we're catching fish. So yeah, and then what we do is just leave the battle arm off, just leave it off, let the line peel off, and the float will cock up right then. And then what it will do is the float will just seek out down the tide, and it will go with all the little eddies and where the bass are, where the tide's running around the rocks. The float will just literally, it will follow the easiest route, and it will follow where the tide's going. And then when it gets too far away from you, or you can see a bit of nice ground coming ahead of you, all you do is you just reel in, check your bait, and then reset it again, and it's rinse and repeat until you get a fish. But yeah, it's been working quite well now. It's a little bit slow. See a commercial friend of mine down here, he had 2 straight away, and then he just had undersized ones. So I've got 2 on board as well, so currently we're matching. But yeah, I'll give it another go here on this long drift, and then I might go and try somewhere else, see if we can find a couple of bigger ones. Not that I'm going to keep one now, just for the sport. But yeah, no, it's going all right though, going okay. This float fishing is brilliant, I love it. Watching the float sail away will never get old, but it doesn't half make you panic sometimes. You'll have your float out, and then you'll be looking around the boat, or you'll be rebaiting something up, and you look up where you think the float is, and you think, oh, it's gone under, and then you suddenly, as you're about to strike, you catch it somewhere else. Then on the flip side, you're looking for your float, and then you think, oh, where's it gone? And you strike, and suddenly it's lunging. So yeah, I love this float fishing. I don't do too much bass fishing. I have to really be in the mood for it, and last night I just felt, oh, do you know what, I'll go get some bait. My other half's got a friend down from Manchester, and we're down in Brighton, or Brighton way, and I thought, oh, do you know what, I'll go out, I'll get some prawns. Out for a good few hours getting some lovely prawns last night, and I thought, I'll come and sit under here. It's the last calm day for a while, then it goes really crappy again for a week, so I try and make the most of it. But I'll snaffle a few more fish out. I've got my bag limit now, so I'm not keeping any more. I'm just doing it for the sport, but I'll try another couple of marks on the way home, and we'll see what we can wangle out. But yeah, it's been an absolutely beautiful day now. It's actually really hot. I did try to do a live earlier, but there's not much signal here where I am. Come on. Decided to have a little troll on the way home. Such beautiful scenery around here. So we've got Belltoot Lighthouse at the top, and then round the corner you've got the actual Beachy Head Lighthouse, and then you've got what's known as the Seven Sisters here. And that's basically a series of cliffs that run along, and there's so-called Seven Sisters because there's 7 of them. We're just having a little troll around in 20 foot of water here. This boat's a bit big really to be in this shallow, but it's bass ground all through here, so I thought, well, I'm going that way anyway. I've got a mega bass, or a mega zonk subsurface bass lure on, and we're trolling about 3.5 knots on the autopilot, so I'm not just out here willy-nilly. We're on the autopilot. I have to go, ideally I want to go a little bit slower, but if you go much slower than 3.5 knots in this boat, it really can't get the autopilot just doesn't like it. So yeah, about 3.5 knots. I've had bass like this before at 3.5 knots, but I thought, well, I'm coming under prime bass ground, certainly until I get up the road to a place called Cookmere River, which is also very bassy, and then it steps out a little bit. So my plan is just to troll up inside to Cookmere River and then cut out, and then I'll just reel up and bring it home. But chance of a bonus fish. If you're ever going to troll like this, 1, make sure your rod's secure, and 2, make sure you got the drag loose and right off on your reel, because if you don't do that, 1 or 2 things will happen. One is that there'll be too much tension and you'll just pull the hook and you'll lose the fish before you get a chance to knock it out of gear. Because what you got to remember is you're going 3.5 knots. The fish is going to hit that at that speed and some, and what it can do is it can just pull the hook. The second thing is, if it doesn't pull the hook, or you come fast, i.e. you snag up, that rod will snap before you get a chance to do anything. So make sure your drag's nice and loose. You can see the rod, I'm not quite sure how well you'll see it from this distance, but you can see the rod really tipping like that. That's the action of the lure working. So I know the lure's working because I can see it in the rod tip. And then when you do get one, it just goes, and then just got to knock it out of gear. It's already hooked itself at that speed, you just got to go and reel it in. But yeah, when you get one, just knock it out of gear, go and get your rod, tighten the drag up, bring it in. Well, we stopped on a reef. On the way home I was trolling, and I think it's still there. Yeah, it's still there. Looks a really small one. It is a baby. That's a mackerel. It's not even a bass, it's a mackerel. Oh, it's not a garfish. Oh no! Oh, it's a garfish. I needed one of them for the species comp. Oh, fish on, fish on. Got something. It's a garfish. This one's getting netted. Doesn't feel big. Could be a mackerel or a gar there, something. Just come out of the wheelhouse to adjust it, and I just had the drag going. That's why you had the drag loose. Oh, that's a mackerel. That's a nice one though. Nice one, but it's a mackerel. We don't want that. I was hoping that was going to be a gar. A big fat mackerel though. That'd be a nice one for dinner. And that's the end of another episode of the Amputee Angler. Hopefully you enjoyed that. You might hear a little ruckus above me. I've got a pair of Spitfires. They come out every weekend, privately owned down the road. Yeah, they're roaring above me. Yeah, we managed to bag ourselves a couple of bass. Both of these went 45 centimetres, so they're coming home. And we put a couple more that size back and some undersized ones. Not a tearing day by any means, but it was rewarding. We had to work hard for it. Tried a few different marks. Eventually we found a few where I wanted to go in the first place at the start. So hindsight, should have just come straight here knowing they would have been here, but never mind. But I might have a stop off on the way home. I'm not sure. If I do, I'll put it in. If I don't, I won't. Thanks for watching. Please do like and subscribe. Hopefully you took something from it. If nothing else, just a little relaxing watch. And I'll see you for another episode soon.